Hey everyone, it's Chris here, and I would like to share a few thoughts on Transformers, which I just got back from not too long ago, probably about maybe an hour or so. So I'm just recording this footage here to share my sort of thoughts on the movie. This movie here I'm not really going to give a review; it's more of a rant. So you can already tell how this is going to turn out. And I apologize if you hear any sound. That's my dog right there. She's chewing me down. I'm going to keep right there. But I want to record this because I wanted to share my thoughts on the movie. I'm going to be nice and civil about this. So, oddly enough, well, this movie wasn't good, but it wasn't necessarily bad. What this movie was is it was boring. It was boring, very boring, surprisingly boring. Because when I was looking at the trailers and all that, you would think that something like this wouldn't be. It's a Michael Bay movie. How could it not have some sort of action in it? But what I got instead was kind of boring. It was a long movie. I think my cousin said I watched this movie with my cousin, and I wanted to actually refocus it with the camera. Now, I actually wanted to do something of like a Skype review or something like that with him, but unfortunately he had some stuff to do tomorrow, so he couldn't join me. Unfortunately, that's too bad. But we were talking about this in the car on the way home after we were watching this movie, and we were doing like our usual little bitching, nitpicking, and stuff like that about the movie. And yeah, some of it I'm going to transfer over here. So let me get to why this movie is boring. This movie is boring, well, simply because I don't care about a lot of stuff, or I couldn't bring myself to care, or the movie could not make me care about a lot of the events that were going on. And I think that's surprising considering how much they were really putting into this. Like the title of the movie, the subtitle of the movie is Transformers: Age of Extinction. That implies that there's going to be some nice, hot robot dino action going on here. They're smashing everything and all that. I mean, in one of the very first reveal trailers for the movie, we got Optimus Prime kicking kicking the hell out of Grimlock. What's going on? We got some weird stuff going on camera. Sorry, I'm just going to adjust this a little bit. Hopefully that'll work. That was strange a little bit. I hope it doesn't show up in the playback. But some of the first footage of this movie was Optimus Prime beating up Grimlock, like the giant Dinobots. And honestly, yeah, it was just not as exciting as the trailer made it out to be. So, well, let me get to like the meat and potatoes of it. That Shia LaBeouf is gone. I don't think anybody is sorry to see him go. But in his place, we have Mark Wahlberg. Now, the choice to have Mark Wahlberg as your main character strikes me as a little bit strange because, well, you could have gotten anyone. You could have gotten someone new or all that. You could have like another member of like the Witwicky family and all that. I don't know how deep the family roots are, but you got Mark Wahlberg. Not a bad choice, but you seem kind of just like the go-to action hero. And that's not to say he's a bad actor. He's an okay actor in this movie. A little bit dull, but that's not his fault. That's the script's fault. But I'll get to that soon. So, like the premise of the movie, it opens up in Texas, and you have Mark Wahlberg, who's like the mechanic, the inventor. He is the Maverick inventor, whose name is Cade Yeager, and that's a name that inspires greatness, right? My dog over there, she's playing in the background. Yeah, that's a name that the hero is born with, and all of that, right? Now, Cade is an inventor, and like most inventors in movies, the stuff that they come up with is typically crap. But that's just the beginning. So Cade finds Optimus Prime, who's on the run from the government because the government thinks that, well, you know what, we can sort of look after ourselves and all that, but they don't put it so subtly as that. They're actually hunting down and destroying the Transformers for their own nefarious needs. And they decide to basically wipe them off the map, even though they've served as assets for all that time. I don't know why. It's just like they want to, like the purpose is like, you know, spoilers, but I don't really care because, well, I don't really want to see this movie again. I don't want anyone to watch this movie again, but $500 million can't really argue with that. But so a private company is really just going and gathering up Transformer stuff and all that because they want to sort of buy technology off of one of the other Transformers you saw in the movie by the name of Lockdown. I think that was his name. He's like a bounty hunter of sorts. So, going back to what I was saying about the plot. So you basically have Mark Wahlberg and you have his teenage daughter. That's Tessa. That was her name. And she didn't need to be there. She really didn't. It's one of the major plot points of this, and one of the major plot character arcs of this movie is you have Cade, who's sort of like the bad, stereotypical, overly protective father towards Tessa, his 17-year-old daughter, who is having a relationship with like a race car driver boyfriend and all that. And well, one of the biggest problems I've had with the Transformers franchise under Michael Bay is that we don't get nearly enough footage of the actual Transformers. We get like a whole bunch of footage that is focused on the humans, the human aspect, but the movie is called Transformers. I think that it's a good idea to sort of focus more on the giant transforming robots as they're going around beating other giant transforming robots. And I think that was kind of strange is that like in the first instances where we actually see Optimus Prime fighting Lockdown is that some of his transformations are actually off screen, and I thought that was kind of strange that you wouldn't want to focus on the transforming aspect since that's where apparently a lot of the budget actually went into, pardon me, animating those transformation sequences. So, we're introduced to a bunch of other Transformers in this movie that were never established before, but if you're a big fan of the lore, you probably would understand who they are. And well, I didn't know who they were because I was never like the huge Transformers fan as a kid. I knew most of the stuff like Optimus Prime, Bumblebee, and all that, but I didn't know who these characters were. Like, and they mentioned their names and all that, but I didn't care. I don't know why I didn't care. Was it because it was a Michael Bay movie? Was it because it was a Ford Transformers movie? I don't know, but looking at these characters, I didn't really care enough to really remember their names. And they really ran the gamut with some of them, and you get that weird effect that's going on here. I really hope it doesn't show up in playback. And there we go, camera refocusing, and we're back. Like, I'm sitting a good distance. I'm like 3-4 feet away from the camera. You'd think that it would sort of keep the zoom feature there. But, so we saw the characters that really had their own sort of unique look to them. You had the Transformer that was played by John Goodman. And I like this guy. But, yeah, he was sort of, I dare to say, stereotypical. I mean, don't call me out on this, but looking at this guy, he sort of reminded me of, well, you stereotypical American. Now, why do I say that? It's because, well, I apologize to any American watchers in advance. I mean, I only live like a mile away from the United States, so I don't mean any sort of disrespect in any way, shape, or form, but this is just what I noticed, is that the guy that, he's a gun nut. He is big, he is fat, cigar chomping, and, well, he's supposed to be the cowboy. He even wears a hat. Like, in the movie, he even takes off a hat to put it at his chest as he's mourning like a fallen Transformer, fallen Autobot. And I thought, oh, that was kind of stereotypical. Another one was a Samurai Bushido-looking Transformer, Autobot, and he spoke with a Japanese accent. He had, like, the samurai get-up on him, and he had, like, the concepts of honor, and that really sort of made him that stereotypical character. I don't know. I guess what actually gets me more about that is that his actual appearance is as a samurai sort of character. It makes you wonder, like, was he always like that? Was he there before he even got to Earth? And if he was like that before Earth, why? Is it just something I picked up? I'm sure like people would like hand wave, like, oh, he's been around for a while. He's just been taking on the Bushido looking Japanese culture. He's been around since the 13th century, but that's just nitpicking at that point. So the plot of the movie is there's well, you got two separate plots. You got the A plot and the B plot. The A plot, the most apparent one, is that there's an army of bounty hunters, bounty hunting Transformers, that's going after Optimus Prime and company, and they're trying to hunt them. They're trying to capture them because they want to bring them back to somebody only referred to as the creators. They are never really mentioned a whole lot outside of that, only that they actually built the Autobots. So we got God essentially coming in here, the creator of an entire sentient race that's looking to get their property back, essentially. It's like, hey man, give me back my action figures. I mean, on a cosmic scale, of course. So I guess these gods, I'm using gods, but creators, I'll use it in the character terms. The creators send bounty hunters to go after Optimus Prime. And, well, they specifically want Optimus Prime. So, the Autobots, I don't even know what they are. They're not really Decepticons. They're just bounty hunters. Let's just say it like that. Because they never really identify themselves as a particular sort of sect or group. So I'm just going to call them bounty hunters. So, bounty hunters, it's led by, I think his name is Lockdown. I'm not 100% certain. I'll call him Gunface just to be certain. Gunface is, oh god, when you're first introduced to this guy, there's this very big transformation. Like, he rises up out of the water like a badass, and his face just transforms from like a rather humanish looking face into this long gun-like appendage that just extends out there. Now I'm sitting there going, oh yeah, that's phallic symbolism right there. The gun being the extension of, well, no. It was very Freudian. It was a Freudian moment, and I'm not afraid to admit it. I'm like, I'm just thinking, I'm sitting there, like if Freud was sitting in the theater, he would just be going like, yeah, so tell me about your mother.
All you want is a ding-dong, what you envy is a schwein, a thing through which you can tinkle, or plague it, or simply let hang.
No, but seriously, that's like one of the first things that struck me about this play in the face was oral fixation and phallic fixation, all in one. Good job on the psychology there, Michael Bay. Anyway, so these bounty hunters are trying to get a hold of Optimus Prime, and they actually do capture them around the midpoint of the movie. And it's up to some of the Autobots and the humans to go and get them out. And while they're on the ship, they are, Cade happens to find a sword. This was a little bit bullshit to me for two reasons. One was the fact that they were able to actually find a sword that they can actually heft. It's like, the sword, I'm not even going to call it a sword, because by Transformers standards, it's a steak knife. It was like, like, about a little bit longer than I hope that this is showing up on screen right there. And it's a sword, but it's never used as a sword. It's used as a gun. Okay, it's a gun sword. It's a gun blade. Oh, God, gun blade. Got a bad Final Fantasy flashback for some reason. But it was a gun, and Cade uses it as a ranged weapon. So a close-range weapon used as a firearm. Why? Why do you need a gun, a sword that can transform into a gun?
Why? Because I can.
And the thing is, though, it's not even fired from the grip. It's fired from the pommel, not the pommel, the hilt, not the hilt, the guard. I'll just call it the guard, the blade guard. So Cade holds it like this and fires it with his two middle fingers, and he holds it like it's so uncomfortable. It's not meant for a human hand. So that makes it, well, of course it's not meant for a human hand, but that goes without saying, why is it even made for a Transformer's hand? The trigger looks way too small for one of their fists, which I assume was at least, 3 times the size of an actual human's finger. So, why does a weapon like this exist? Well, simply because it's like a win button for Cade. It's a win button for all, like, the humans, that because they didn't have any sort of firearm that was capable of taking on Transformers. You know, granted, in the first, second, and third movie, it's shown that Transformers are actually vulnerable to, human firearms, but most of those firearms are generally high-caliber weapons, or are grenade launchers. We have seen this. So, the fact that this sort of weapon even exists in the first place is to give the humans a sort of an edge, or at least a fighting chance, against the Decepticons, and of course Cade makes use of this liberally throughout the movie. How are we on time now? 15 minutes! Okay, that's pretty good actually. So, Cade now has a weapon he's able to use against it, and of course you get drama between the girlfriend and the boyfriend. And at this point, I figured out, I don't much care. I don't care. You guys can have your relationship issues somewhere else. it is amazing to me why Cade would even allow like his daughter, which he apparently cares so much for, to even accompany him through going through like a freaking starship or into strike that because that wasn't exactly her choice, but is able to actually go into these situations because he still keeps her around, and it's pretty apparent that um, she is not a fighter. She's more concerned about being with her lovey-dovey boyfriend Shane, who is like an Irish race car driver, and they really make the distinction that he's Irish and that if Mark Wahlberg calls him like Lucky Charms and all there, some sort of Irish naming stereotype, and like he race car driver basically was like you get your ass kicked in Ireland if you say something like that. Or that was kind of funny but pointless. And sort of character development. Yes, I understand he's Irish. We move along, people. So, um, how they end up on the ship is like that. They get kidnapped because he's trying to get Optimus Prime, but his daughter gets there as well. While she's trying to run away from the robot dogs. Oh yeah, the Transformers, the bounty hunters have robot dogs. So why that even exists is beyond me. Like, can they transform? What can they transform into? It's well because we see that Lockdown is able to transform into a Lamborghini, and I guess it's one of the new ones. But the other transform. Well, what did the dogs transform into? Do they actually transform into anything? And I don't know. It just gets me. Hey, Sid, Sydney, come here. You'll be on YouTube or something like that. But anyways, and here's the continuity error: is that Tessa is able to outrun the robotic alien dogs, and that's like a very common. It's a very common continuity error when you're hoping that your main character isn't caught by something which you know for sure would actually outrun them and overtake them. It's well, I'm guessing she's a 17-year-old girl who I can guarantee was not a track star and looking at the arms and legs and all that, and she wouldn't be able to do that. So, in the B plot at this point is that there's a corrupt company that's actually manufacturing new Transformers, and it's run by like the CEO who's in it for the money and all that. And says like, oh, we don't need you anymore. We can build our own Transformers. So they can, so they're able to actually manufacture their own things with it. One they use for civilian research or civilian purposes. And well, if that's true, why not just like build a mech suit or something like that? Why build Transformers and all that? But that's besides the point. And watching them, they actually transform differently. They're actually able to transform like digitizing, like if they were like using the composer from Halo or something. You know what it was? I made the connection. It's like the new Transformers that were built by this company KSI Industries in the movie. It kind of reminded me like the difference between like a T800 and a T1000. You know, like the made of liquid metal or something like that. And well, that's the sort of thing that I sort of equated them. So one of the Autobots that they make, not Autobots, that's what do they even call them? But whatever. One of the Transformers they make, they call Galvatron, and the name sounds so familiar. I don't remember though if he was an actual Transformer. Now I'm gonna have to look it up afterwards. Oh, and they're made out of a metal that they call transformite, I think it's called, which actually got me like groaning out loud in the theater. It's like transformite. You couldn't have called it anything cooler, like Morphite or something like that, or I don't know, Transformium. That's what they called it. Yeah, did I say that? I don't even know. It's like it's so stupid I didn't really even remember that small detail. But the element is able to transform anything, and they're able to do it like they actually show like a thing where they transform like even like a piece of like a spear into something like a Beats by Dr. Dre thing, and I'll get back to that just after I talk about this. Like, or transform into a handgun, which is able to just show off. Like, never mind the fact that it may or may not be loaded. You point it in the face of somebody else. That's just stupid one way or another. So they hope to change the way that the world is. So I'm going to take a break from the plot right now and sort of discuss the problem of product placement in this movie. Oh my God, product placement. I mean, the other Transformers movies were definitely guilty of stuff like this, but this was so blatant I couldn't even imagine it. Like, you had well, they always did the car stuff. They had Pagani, they had Lamborghini, they had Bugatti, they had Chevrolet stuff, like the Camaro. But they had other stuff too. They had freaking Oreos, they had Bud Light, they had Victoria's Secret, they had, geez, what was the other stuff they had in there? Beats by Dr. Dre. They was, oh my god, every single one. No, they had My Little Pony in there. That's the one that got me. Like, you could have had anything. You could have shown off anything. But you showed off, you had a freaking Rainbow Dash plush, and you turned it into an assault rifle. Why? I'm sorry, but that one little fact got to me. That one little transformation got to me. I don't know why it was. Why that one? I guess, well, perpetuating the stupid My Little Pony stuff. You know when I actually saw that GIF? The GIF of the plush actually turning into an assault rifle on the internet. I assumed it was something like the Freddie Wong probably came up because it seemed like something that he would do. But you know, no, that was actually in the movie, and that actually, they actually did that. So they thought, the director said, you know what would be cool if we did like a plug to the My Little Pony fan base, because that hasn't been overdone to death now for the past couple years. And like, it doesn't help that the guy that was doing it was the researcher, like, sort of personified the sort of like the neckbeard personality, and the fact that when he's doing, like, when he's texting to his boss about the yield of like a possible alien explosive, he adds like la 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 la, like a tactical nuke, smiley face hearts. Really? Is that the sort of guy you want as your head researcher, like an immature brony? Apologies to bronies, by the way. But where was I? Oh yeah, like past the product placement and all that. So, yeah. So both of these A and B plots, they go back and forth, they weave, like, and all that, and like the CIA is after Yeager, and you have like the FBI agent who basically is trying to take him down because for reasons of national security and God and country and all that fun stuff. Yeah. He was probably one of the best performances in the movie because he actually was the only one that seemed like he was actually giving a damn throughout that entire thing. And, well, I have to give him credit for that. The other one, like, just seemed like your typical sort of dragging character who just wanted to, you know, kill and just enjoy doing it. Like, he wanted to shoot, like, an unarmed girl. He wanted to shoot Kate's daughter and all that. That's one of the things that really sets him off and sort of establishes him as an irredeemable villain who has no traits that one could be considered rounded. Now, the FBI agent I can sort of understand because he sort of had motivation why he was doing it. He wanted to sort of protect his country, and he very likely could have actually been sincere about that. And so, I'm getting off track. So eventually, like halfway through the movie, they figure things are sort of going to hell because, well, KSI is trying to build new Autobots. Like one of them, he's trying to cautiously model him off Optimus Prime. And funny thing is, it happens to continuously model itself after Megatron. Red flag number 1. Because apparently this is not the first time that's happened. The movie implies that this has happened multiple times. And instead of making it look like Optimus Prime, it looks like Megatron. Warning! That's the one thing you know that it's not going quite right. Secondly, it says that they've been hooking themselves up, that they've been hooking into Megatron's head and downloading information off them, and that's how they know how to make Transformers. Red flag number 2 in conjunction with red flag number 1. But the final thing, the 3 strikes you're out thing that sort of says that these things are bad news, when they actually send these Transformers after the good guys, now one of them starts to, the one that Galvatron starts to fire off missiles at the other guys in traffic, cleaves a freaking car in two, and crushes a couple of others, almost certainly causing civilian casualties. And that sort of thing is, hang on, I gotta plug this in here. So that sort of thing makes me realize, guys, maybe this is a bad idea.
I've made a huge mistake.
Maybe these sort of things are actually evil, and maybe we should stop making them, or at least stop making them this way. Maybe we could download the information off of some of the Autobots that we've actually murdered, because maybe those would make nicer Transformers. But no, you gotta go after Megatron because it gives an excuse for a villain to come in and establish a 5th freaking movie. Jesus.
Oh, excellent.
Oh yeah. Like before the big change, before they go to the second part of the movie, they go to Chicago. Why and how? I mean, why? No, why? There's two heads to that question. Why? Why are there people even still living in Chicago? It was the site of a freaking alien invasion, and people are actually still living there? Thousands of people died, infrastructure was destroyed, and there are still cars. No, not only are there still cars, it's actually heavily populated. There are, I mean, if there was an alien invasion, I want to make sure that perhaps I want to stay far, far away from the place that they actually landed, because that could be a focal point. Maybe it should be some sort of social taboo. But there are still plenty of people living in Chicago. Dude, you don't do that. And especially ever since when the bounty hunters come back in and are actually hovering over the city, I think, well, shit, you didn't think that was going to happen again, did you? So they're done in Chicago, and once again we have like people running through, firing weapons at the city, almost certainly causing some form of collateral damage. That's something this movie needs to learn. Collateral damage. You don't fight, like, even you have Mark Wahlberg who's firing the guns of one of a stolen alien spaceship. It's almost certainly hitting parts of like the city, or is almost certainly hitting parts of the road, which I'm sure there's nobody standing on the street or in the office building in the middle of daytime. Just thought. And of course, causing the standard destruction of Chicago, which people have been toiling for about a year, fixing up. Why were they in Chicago? All right, so after that, they figure out that, okay, they figure out that something they're after is called the seed. What's the seed, and why was it never? My battery is low. Jeez, really? Oh, I see. Hang on, it's just a bad connection. So they realize that one of the things that they're going after, one of the things that's the whole MacGuffin of the movie, is called the seed. What is the seed, and why was it never brought up before when the Transformers were here? It's like something that they should have done. Well, it's a seed is basically bullshit that they pulled out of their ass for the movie. And what it is when you detonate it in a certain area, it creates transformium. And according to the movie, that's what caused the extinction of the dinosaurs, like 60 million years ago, give or take an eon. And that's bullshit. So anyways, we got the MacGuffin in the movie, and it's taken by the company to China. And that's where the film sets. But you know something? I'm actually kind of happy to see like the international cooperation to make the movie in China, and like the Chinese government and all that in Shanghai and in Hong Kong. And I think it's really neat though to see that sort of relationship between filmmakers and going to different parts of the world. Not that it hasn't happened before, but this is the first I've ever heard about it for a movie this size. So props for them for doing that. Okay, goodness out of the way. Time to get back to yelling. So in China, this is where we have like the part where the CEO starts to become a more prominent character, and he does a lot of dumb stuff in this movie. The guy, he does like a lot of rambling. There's one scene where he's in an elevator, just talking to this guy over here. This guy obviously doesn't speak any English, and he's basically yapping about like how I'm worth $20 billion. I'm carrying a bomb with me right here, but I'm suffering from no jet lag. And meanwhile, the guy's just staring at him like, shut up, or something like that. And when like the agents come to get him, like the guy in the elevator just beats them all up, and he's obviously like a kung fu master and all. He does like the close 1-inch punches and just knocks the guy down. And well, it was okay, but it was sort of like you could have closed the elevator and just gone up. You didn't have to do that whole stupid sort of argument. And the guy's Chinese assistant could have actually done that too. So now, once again, we brought the war to another part of the world in China, and the Transformers are able to get there. Never mind the fact that it would be a diplomatic nightmare, especially when it's uncovered that the CIA was technically involved in all of this, in hiring the bounty hunters in the first place to go after crime. So we have the alien bounty hunters go back because they realize that the Transformers that have stowed away on their ship have escaped. Oops. And they found themselves several light years from Earth, and they're coming back to wreak their horrible bloody vengeance. So what do? Is that Michael Bay sort of rips off Man of Steel by having something like a gravity-ish sort of thing. It's not the same thing, but it, hi, how you doing? You want to go across? You want to sit down over here? Sit down over here, come on. So, we'll go. So Michael Bay sort of rips off Man of Steel in sort of a way, not exactly the same way, but it's definitely like the cues are sort of the same. How in order to find the seed, Lockdown and his men try to use something like a gravity beam to sort of suck up metal, and that includes. Apparently, it's strong enough to even suck up loose change, which means that pretty much everyone in the city should have been floating around. And when they figure out that it's not the seed, it drops them all down, crashing like ships, cars, even like a simple trash on the streets. And I'm wondering, why doesn't it pick up the buildings? What does it have like an upper limit to that sort of thing? Because I'm sure that some buildings are even lighter than like ocean liners. And then like I guess it's sort of like the hand wave it away, like oh, it's only when if something moves out of the beam it can't be picked up, but whatever. So they're able to destroy it simply by shooting up into the beam and all that, and that destroys it. Like they basically take care of it Independence Day style, and I wonder, like, really, that's all it took? It's like why did they make it seem like it was such a big deal if they just could have destroyed it simply by shooting it? Have you also noticed that Cade's daughter and Shane? Well, I hope you didn't. I hope you did, because it's seriously so pointless that I really can't bring myself to talk about it. So this is where in China we see the big thing. We sort of see the big reveal, the age of extinction. Not only does it mean the supposed extinction of human beings as a whole, but we see Grimlock for the first time. Yeah, the dinosaurs that were actually captive. They're actually captive in the spaceship. They're only briefly alluded to in a second where you see like a shot of their face and all that, but Optimus frees them and just says like, well, you're free now. I want to tame you guys. So now a question pops into my mind is, where did they get these guys? Why are they here? Why are they on this alien spaceship? Are they given a backstory? No, of course not. They're only there, and they're basically shown as a slight Chekhov's gun, and that Optimus will actually use them to sort of fight the aliens. So this is where I really said that the film was boring. This is where it really comes into play, and I'll get that in a second. And that they made the whole scene where Optimus basically interacts with Grimlock boring. It's boring. How do you make a transforming T-Rex with fire breath boring? Well, Michael Bay found a way and was able, like, it's like the fight where he tames Grimlock is like almost totally without music, and it's mostly focused on the other characters who are watching this as it goes down. And I'm wondering to myself, why? Don't you want to put more effort into this sort of thing? Grimlock was one of the secret weapons of the movie that they really were banking on, and were really trying to make so incredibly badass and engaging. But they didn't make the fight engaging. It made it boring. I was wondering, why aren't we being involved in this a little bit more? So, of course, Optimus kicks his ass, and now in true Pokemon fashion, he works for him now, and he's got a sword. What did a Transformer have a sword for? Don't you want guns? They have plenty of guns. Geez, I forget his name. John Goodman's Autobot. He had guns. He had guns. He had a beard. He was smoking a freaking bullet. Freaking bullet, by the way, which I believe was actually live because he spit it over in his mouth and fired it. One would think that if you're smoking a bullet, aren't you worried about it going off? Basically blowing the back of your head off? Evidently that never really occurred to this guy. I think it was more like a spur of the moment kind of thing. And they throw grenades. Grenades, which I might add, actually look very much like our grenades. But I digress. Very much so. So, Optimus Prime has basically kicked the ass of Grimlock, and none of Grimlock's posse seems to really want to take on Optimus because I guess Grimlock was their leader or something like that, and we're basically saying like, oh, hey, you beat our boss. I guess we work for you now. And that's the secret weapon because the fight is getting like one-sided at this point. They're fighting like the T-1000 Transformers, and they win the fight. And so the final part of the movie is like where Mark Wahlberg goes off to fight Lockdown, and strangely enough, Lockdown doesn't use his space dick gun. And I guess because, like, you could argue that it's because it's a close range, because you typically only use something like that as a sniper. But why wouldn't he use something like that all the time? Can't he just transform his big stick gun into like a short range cannon and all that? Because, well, that would be useful. Um, yeah. So Mark Wahlberg goes out and he's going off to fight Lockdown, and there's like this huge idea that Mark Wahlberg can actually die in the fight. And of course, Tessa is like saying, "No, Daddy, no, he'll kill you, he'll die. Just shut up, just go away." And you know what? They actually do contribute a little something to this movie. Is that they managed to trip Lockdown using a metal rod, which I'm sure would be the equivalent of trying to trip me with dental floss. I mean, think about it. You got a guy who's probably weighing at least 10, 20 tons, at least. And he's able to transform. He's carrying a whole bunch of ammunition in him, I might add, so it only increases the weight. And they're able to trip him using like a simple winch and a cable from a tow truck. I don't think that would work in real life. Well, not that I'm saying I would want to even equate it to real life, but try tripping a 20-ton statue. It just doesn't work. I'm pretty sure that your truck would just change direction as soon as that would happen. But that's the sort of thing that they're able to knock him off balance, and the Optimus Prime just carved his head in half. Actually, you know what? I'm actually very surprised with the amount of stuff they were able to get away with, because some of the way that some of these Autobots die are quite gruesome. I mean, you have one of them, I think it was Ratchet, that was killed by having his leg blown off, and then his fucking heart that was torn out. It's not really his heart, it's his soul or something. So I guess Lockdown went full Shang Tsung and just tore his soul out of the body. Like the equivalent, like that Kali.
Your soul is mine.
Like the equivalent, like that Kalima sort of thing. But then there are several Transformers that have like headshots or something like that. Or some of Lockdown's men are shots of their leaking like green fluid, which is blood. And some of them are torn in half. One of them, like Bumblebee throws like a head into like a, not Grimlock, one of the pterodactyls, I don't even know the names of those, into their skull, and then they chew it up. I'm sorry, Grimlock, when they throw one of the Transformers into Grimlock's maw and they just crush them and all that, you have Lockdown whose head is torn in half. You think that like they're able to get away with quite a lot. Like imagine if those were humans. I mean, that would be an automatic R rating and stuff like that. So this is like what I said in my X-Men stuff, like all the gruesome deaths and all that. They're able to get away with quite a lot when you substitute humans with robots. Just saying. Oh god, I even forgot because it was so unimportant. In the beginning of the movie, you have like a character who's just like serves as Mark Wahlberg's employee. He's killed in the first 10 minutes. He's killed in the first 10 minutes with a weapon we never actually see used again. And I guess that's like the point they're like, oh my god, we lost someone that we cared about. Not me. Nothing of value was lost. He was an idiot surfer dude who was actually responsible for setting the plot of the movie in motion because he's the one who called the government to try to get the Transformers, thinking that they would actually cut him a check and give him some like $100,000 or something like that. First rule of conspiracies, eliminate all witnesses. Like, he's surprised when they actually send a death squad to take care of them all. I'm thinking, you just saw an alien, and these guys are clearly corrupt. But I don't have a degree in that sort of thing, but I can guarantee you that, to quote Jersey Boys, you shoot someone, you shoot the witnesses. So nothing of value was lost with Surfer Dude. Fast forward throughout the whole movie. Nobody reflects on his death, by the way, now that I think about it. Nobody cares that he's dead. They don't care. I don't care. We're both happy. So the end of the movie is everyone is happy, hunky-dory. And they don't have a house to live for, but good thing they know a guy who's worth multi-billion dollars that they happen to save the life of. And, oh, yeah, Galvatron, or should I say Megatron, or should I say next movie. Oh yeah, they dangle him in front of everyone. It's like like, ooh, guys, everyone, look here, look here, look here. You have, where are you going? We're not going anywhere. Don't worry, we're not going anywhere. It's like, whoa, look at this, Galvatron. Look at this. It's Megatron and stuff like that. Like, but you think that there's gonna be like some sort of fight or something like that, but you know what? It never happens. It never happens. Grimlock the main fight of the movie. So they come out over here. Come on back over here. Come in. Like, Lockdown is the fight of the movie. That's all it was leading up to. Even though, like, we have Galvatron or Megatron or whatever, who's shown multiple times throughout the movie, is led up to. It's implied that he's supposed to be the big bad that Optimus has to eventually face. But when that sort of thing is supposed to come, he just turns away and saying, "We shall meet again, Optimus Prime." Well, geez, that means there's gonna be another movie now, is there? We can't have any closure, can we? So, after Optimus, like, kicks his ass, Optimus can fly now. Did you know that? I didn't know that. And basically says he's gonna go out there to look for the gods. And did the spark even do anything? Did he keep the spark? I mean, not the seed. I guess he did, because we never really reflected on that. It almost goes off, but it almost goes off, goes nuclear, and turns the entire city into transformium. But it does. I guess they were able to remove it or something rather. I don't know. Yeah, Optimus goes off into space. He's able to break escape velocity, by the way, and like he goes like it's like Starscream from the end of the last movie. And yeah, how are we on time? I think we're gonna wrap it up. 41 minutes. Okay, I think that's more than enough. So let me wrap it up here. This movie was boring. This movie was a cash-in. This movie wasn't great. This movie was so cheesy. I wonder what sort of cheese was it. I joked to my cousin and like thinking that this is like a gorgonzola or something because it's the funniest thing I could think of at the time. But you know what it is? It's one of those French things there. It's putrid at first glance. It doesn't even taste all that great when you think about it. It actually repulses some people, but it didn't repulse me. I actually went to go see it because what's a drop in the bucket at this point? Yeah, we're gonna keep getting these movies, aren't we? So. See this movie if you really want to. Don't see it. Doesn't really matter because you're going to get a sequel anyway. And it's probably going to star Mark Wahlberg now, isn't it? Because Optimus Prime leaves his guys back home on Earth to defend that family. Even though he said he was done protecting humans, he goes back on his word. And he leaves his guy behind to go off and face the gods alone. Edgy. So anyways, thanks for sitting through this rant. It wasn't really a review. But yeah, the movie was boring. Lines were cheesy. The act was cheesy. Romances were unnecessary. Show me more giant robots. You did, but you made them boring. I want to thank you guys for watching. Hopefully you keep on watching. Thanks for bearing through this video. And I'll see you guys in the next one. This is Actual, and I'm signing off.